This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is the gifted and talented Ray Rosas, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show with Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it is a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the gifted and talented Ray Rosas.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks. That was really good.
How are you, Ray?
Doing great. You know, just coming off a weekend full of wrestling, just trying to heal up the body. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be, so it takes It takes a bit longer to recover from a 3-day weekend of wrestling than used to back when I was younger.
That's right. You just did 4 matches in a night or something like that.
Well, yeah, at Winter Circle Pro Wrestling in Chino, California. I was involved in what was called a marathon match, which essentially is the gauntlet match, and I came in first and ended up wrestling 4 matches in a row, and those 4 different opponents, 4 different styles of matches. And let me tell you, I'm halfway through the first match with my first opponent, Adrian Quest, and I'm kind of have a little doubt in myself, I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't think I could do this. But once I caught my second wind, I was able to muscle through and make it to the end. But I was ultimately defeated by Slice Boogie for the pound-for-pound championship for Winter Circle Pro Wrestling. So it was a lot of hard work that ended pretty disappointedly.
Well, I'm sure there's more opportunities coming up for you in the future. Where can we find the gifted and talented next?
Well, you can find me pretty much every single Friday night in Chatsworth and Millennium Pro Wrestling. We run a weekly show, and it's actually the only federation in Southern California that runs weekly. They run every single Friday in the Boulder Dash on the top floor. So if you're ever in the area, you could come check me out every single Friday. I got Santino Bros Wrestling on May 18th in Azusa for Fight Night 8. Where I'm coming off the heels of a defeat against Delilah Doom, but it was by disqualification, so I think I'm entitled to a rematch. And then on May 20th, it'll be Venue Wrestling Entertainment, where I will be taking on the New Age Punisher B-Boy and Lil Cholo for the SoCal Wrestling Championship for Venue Wrestling Entertainment. The Battle of the Legends. Got a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm really excited.
Definitely. And where can we find you on social media and your merchandise as well?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Ray Rosas. I was lucky enough to get that one early on, but I wasn't too lucky one on Instagram. So on Instagram, you can find me at other Ray Rosas. The Ray Rosas you look up will be an older gentleman. But I'm the one that has the beard and that wrestles, so you can't miss me if you look me up on Instagram. It's other Ray Rosas. As far as merchandise goes, right now I'm on the tail end of my career, so I don't have a lot of merchandise, but I do have some trading cards available at most shows whenever you come see me. It has a lot of cool little facts and a good little picture of me back when I was the Santino Bros Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, the longest reigning champion, mind you, for over 1,000 days. So yeah, that's all I got. So if you want a limited edition trading card of Ray Rosas, just let me know what you want, how many you want.
Right. And you don't even have to go looking for those his social media. All of the links will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox.
Right on.
All right, let's get into it. You recently beat B-Boy in your third ever singles match. I believe B-Boy won the first two, and you were finally able to capture, get the win this time around. So what did that kind of mean to you?
That actually meant a lot to me, because B-Boy, though we have been opponents in a one-on-one basis only maybe 3 times. We have been in various tag team matches, multi-person matches, and I've always, come away with learning something from B-Boy. He's one of the guys that when I was younger that kind of took me under his wing and kind of helped me learn. Taught me a lot of stuff. A lot of my match structures, a lot of my strategies are borrowed or variations of B-Boys. So being able to step into the ring and now looking out like not no longer being someone that is below him, I was no longer a student to him. I was a mentor. Oh no, I'm sorry, a mentor in my own right, but I was an equal, and in that match where I finally beat him, it almost seemed that now I finally had surpassed him. And now I became the lead veteran or the legend in the Southern California area. And it was a hard fought match. You can never, no matter how much you try to count B-Boy out, he's always gonna have a one more punch, one more drop kick, one more forearm that's gonna have a lot behind it, and it's gonna rattle your teeth. It's gonna rattle your brain. It's gonna weaken your knees. But if you can weather the storm, you find yourself with the victory there. And I had to go to a dark place. I had to go to a place I don't go to very often to get the win against him, and I don't regret it. But I'm very satisfied to finally get the win.
Right, and he is obviously a legend in not just wrestling, but he may be a bigger legend in the state of California as well. And you kind of are making your own legacy in Los Angeles, California as well. No?
Yeah, I like to think so. There's days that I feel like I'm not living up to where I should be, and there's other days where I feel like I'm the king of the entire state of California. But I feel like my legacy has been built with a lot of with solid matches that I've had over the years. A lot of stepping up to these big matches when I needed to, but also as a trainer. I've a coach at the Millennium Wrestling Academy for Millennium Pro Wrestling. And I've trained a lot of students, and I've developed a lot of techniques for people to learn, and that right there has probably taught me, by me teaching these aspiring wrestlers to be better wrestlers, it's helped make me better too. Helps give me a whole nother uh, perspective on wrestling and how to go about it, and how to get some longevity out of it.
So, training these younger students and obviously novices is kind of giving you perspective on your own career.
Yes, exactly. Because I know there are times when I get pretty burnt out with wrestling, and I question if I want to continue to do it. And then you start training a brand new beginner whose eyes are bright and they're just so excited to be in the ring. And then when you teach them something, and then they get that sense of accomplishment. You kind of get reminded of how it felt when you were first learning. So. I try to harness that in particular energy to keep me going a little bit longer, because of course there's a lot of fans that look up to me, but now there's students that look up to me, and in order for them to feel like they're a success, I want to be successful, so that way, they feel they're trusting who they're trained by. They're not trained by some guy that's just bitter and over everything about wrestling, but someone that's still in it, actively in it, and loves it. So it's a struggle to stay fresh with wrestling. I said when you're training younger people with younger talent, and they give you a much fresh perspective, because they're opening your eyes. And I always try to keep an open mind when it comes to wrestling. I try not to have one mindset, whether oh, it's old school this way, or we should be just kind of stealing the show this way, or I keep an open mind, and and I look at wrestling as one giant big form of entertainment, and there's just so many ways to go about it. One night you'll do a trick or a technique that'll help get the crowd behind you, and then the next night you're gonna do something completely different to get them to hate you. And I love that aspect of wrestling, and I like to teach that aspect.
And you were trained in 2009, correct?
That's right. I just had my 14-year anniversary. I started in at the Santino Bros Wrestling Academy over in it was started in Norwalk, California, before they moved to Bell Gardens. And top tier training. It has a, they have a high dropout rate, and so I was one of the lucky ones to make it through and thrive. And then they were able to. Santino Bros has popped out, numerous back to back rookies of the years here in Southern California. They pumped out various stars. Brody King is right now on AEW. Just tearing it up, and he embodies everything that Santino Bros Wrestling is. I've happened to branch out and pick up various training techniques from a bunch of different people over the scene, and then I brought it over to Millennium Wrestling, where I now run my own classes and continue to spread out the roots of the tree, that where Santino Bros had planted in me.
Well, that was my question, because, obviously, 2009 is still very much like the Wild West days of pro wrestling, that old style mentality. So how did you, adjust how you were trained in that Old West mentality into, and kind of fix it to how things are today in pro wrestling? You kind of understand what I mean?
Well, yeah, I get it, because I know when I was trained, I was roughed up really bad, in a safe way, just because they wanted to see if you were going to take the lumps and keep coming back.
Right.
You had to pay a lot of dues in that regard. And I was much smaller. I mean, I'm a little over 200 pounds right now, but when I was first started training, I was about 140 pounds. And so I was getting roughed up a little bit. And so my main job was to pack on the weight, and was you said, we talk about how the mentality, or at least the way it was different then. I back when I first started, you had to be like 6'5", you had to be a certain weight, and you had to be a certain age, because the moment you reach the age of 30 back into like 2009, 2010 in the wrestling landscape, then you had no future. Like you were like, oh well, WWE's not going to be signing you if you're over 30. And then over the course of the years, now they're signing, they're signing people, into their mid 30s. So, and body type and size and weight are not even an issue anymore, as long as you're an outstanding, larger than life talent. So it's almost felt like I got stuck in the middle of these two mindsets or eras of wrestling. So I'll try to catch up. I'm trying to catch up with both of them. But when it comes to like the talent these days, like I understand that and I think it's me just being a father too. Like you have different kids, they all react to certain styles of learning. There are certain people that they have strict regimental lessons or strict regimental classes. There's people that need to be more relaxed. There's people that you need to reach out in a way that, like, how can I help you figure this out? And we'll think outside the box on how to figure out this particular move or this particular spot as to when I'm training people, and I never really push people in a militaristic, regimental type of way. I'm more of that hippie teacher when it comes, like that I'm just like, all right, hey guys, let's have a good class. Let's work out, or work out on your own. But I'm here to teach you wrestling. I'm not here to teach you how to be a bodybuilder, because I'm nobody to look at and say like, yeah, that's a bodybuilder. But I'm just like, I'm gonna teach you how to do wrestling. I'm gonna teach you how to perform and work the crowd. Like that's my specialty. And in my experience, no matter what type of crowd or what type of show you're on, being able to connect with the crowd will get you over in any promotion.
All right. Now this is a question from my co-host, because he did send me the questions that he wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the human tornado?
Oh man, the Human Tornado was somebody I admired when I was first training. I remember watching him on Wrestling Society X on MTV, if you remember that. Um, and when I first met him, he was at backstage at one of the early Santino Bros wrestling shows, and he was kind of sitting there to himself, real quiet. Like it's just funny how how quiet and reserved he is in person to compared to how he is in the ring. But getting to know him, and then again, it's such a weird like a feeling that you get when you like admiring or looking up to a person, and then you become that person's friend and a peer, and then you work with that person. So when I got to wrestle with Human Tornado, I remember having really good matches with him, and he's always been really treating me really well. So he's a bit of a goofball. He's a bit of an oddball, but you always go like, oh, that's just Tornado. But he's great. He's great.
All right. Well, can you tell us about your tag team partner in PPRay, Peter Avalon?
Yeah. Yeah, we've him and I have the exact same birthday. So like we're not the same age, but our birthday is the exact same day. And it's one of those things where like it wasn't a manufactured tag team. It wasn't like a promotion or company had put the two of us together and just like, hey, okay, you guys are a team now. I think we did a couple 6-man tags at like PWG and Championship Wrestling in Hollywood, and we noticed that there was a certain chemistry between us. Like we were like gelled. We had the way we gelled with our moves and stuff, and our timing and the way we would set each other up in the ring with our moves. And then so later on, we were kind of just talking at backstage one day. We're just like, oh hey, you know what? We should like. You ever thought about being a team? Like, and I think we were kind of. It's like one of those things where like you want to ask someone on a date, but you're afraid to, and then at the other side, the same person is like they want to ask you on a date too, but they're afraid to. So we were kind of worried about like each other's singles careers. Like, oh, he's doing stuff with singles. He's got a good singles run going. I don't want to make him like have to do forget all that and be a tag team. But we were both in that same way, and it was my wife at the time, or my wife. She's my girlfriend at the time. But my wife was the one that she was standing next to both of us. She's like, "Hey, how come you guys never thought about being a tag team?" And they were like, "Oh, I don't know." And then we kind of like had this little awkward like, "Do you want to?" Like, yeah. And then so then so then we just formed. It took us a long time to come up with a name, and it's kind of like just like kind of mashing our two names together, because he was Pretty Peter Avalon, and he would just call himself PPA for short. And then I was Ray, and I just remember like kind of like putting like back when celebrity couples were matching their names together, like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, they were like Benifer, right? Yeah. So we kind of just did that with PPRay, and it wasn't like we wanted that to be our name. It was just kind of like a hashtag we used, and then the fans started chanting it while we were wrestling one day, and then next thing you know, a promoter puts it on a flyer, and that's just it. You're just stuck with that name. It's easy to chant, but like it's not. You can't really merchandise that, because a lot of times people think it's a religious T-shirt or something because it says PPRay on it. Like one time we were actually called PPRay. The ring announcer didn't know we were PPRay. We were called PPRay. But like you said, once we started going and we started having to reach out for bookings, and once people saw what we could do, and then once we picked the song, once we picked our theme song, which was Obsession by Animotion, like once we picked that, then the vibe, or at least the idea of what we wanted to be, or the vibe we wanted to give out, became like apparent. Then of course came the dancing, and then everything else that came with it. So it almost became that our dollar bills, and people sticking money in our mouths and drinking beer out of our mouths, and it was just great stuff, real gross stuff. Not like in a post-pandemic era, we can't do any of that, but it became so that our opening number, like as we would call it, our entrance would be like the main draw of a PPRay match, and then the actual wrestling after was just like secondary. So I was always proud. I was always proud that like we were like over as an act as opposed to like a tag team. And we would try to come up with different ideas or different little skits or different things for our entrance. One time we did a bit with it was Christmas, so we did like the Justin Timberlake Lonely Island Dick in the Box with some fanny packs in a box. And we did like when we wrestled David Arquette, we did a Scream bit, like a Scooby Doo / Scream. So I was in the Ghostface mask. We've done a bunch of great stuff. Oh, we did like this Dark Order parody thing when we wrestled Evil Uno and Alan Angels a couple years ago. So we were all so like I said, we were always with our dance number. We would always try to think of these different things to keep people on their toes. And I said that became the draw of our matches. And unfortunately, though, for like a lot of the stuff you look up on YouTube, whenever you look us up, like since copyright issues were always kind of there, we couldn't play our entrances. So a lot of that would be lost on online. So people would just see us wrestling and not understand what the big deal was about. So. Yeah, good times.
Is there a pet peeve about Peter that you just don't understand?
Pet peeve about Peter?
Yes.
I mean the thing, you know what it is? It's that, so I guess since we're so in tuned, is that when he does stuff that I do, like that I know that I do, that bother me. Like we're so alike and we're so similar that there's things that's like, I hate when he does that. But you know what? I do that too. So I do the exact same thing. But yeah, if anything, if Peter had a tendency to like talk with his mouth full when we were out eating. So
okay.
Yeah, so that was always something. But yeah, we would get on each other's nerves all the time. It was, and when I knew that I was getting on his nerves, I would like be more obnoxious. We're just, he yelled, like I'm driving and he's like yelling. He's like, God, you're so damn annoying. And then we wouldn't talk for like 45 minutes. So we're driving and then we would start joking again later.
No, that's just best friends. You see your annoying best friend and you're like, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to press the button more.
Yeah. So, and then once he blows up, he's like, yep, got him.
And you were a great wingman for him as well on his date with Zeta Zhang.
Yeah. Oh man, those being the elite bits were they were really fun. They were really fun to do. A lot of those things were collaborations between me and Peter. He would come up with like a general idea, and then I would kind of throw the different twists into it. But the Zeta Zhang one, I did my best to try to get him a date, but he doesn't need my help that much. He just kind of, I think by me helping him probably made it worse.
Was there any involvement? Was that just you and Peter filming stuff and sending it to the Bucks, or was the Bucks involved in any of that?
It was actually, I don't know how that really went. I just know that I believe that's how it went. I think we just filmed something and send it in. If they decided they wanted to use it, they would use it. I think they were just kind of eager for any type of content to fill out the time. And I think they liked the idea of it helping get some talent over that weren't getting a lot of TV time. Right. Because I think there's a lot of talent that got over really big from being the elite that weren't getting the TV time. And then when they finally got their TV time, they would get the reactions because of their involvement with BTE. So again, I was just trying to catch that rub, and I would, like I said, Peter would ask if we wanted to film something, and then I said we would just kind of workshop ideas out, and we're just the comedic timing that the two of us would have. Everything would just gel. The next, we would yell cut, and then we're just dying laughing at the end of it. And we're like, and it's like, if we're laughing about it, like hopefully everybody else is going to laugh about it too. And when they see what we filmed.
Alright. Now, can you tell us about the John Ian Invitational?
The John Ian Invitational. That was a long time ago. Oh man, it was at the Glass House. You got to help me out. Remember here, it's the Glass House right in Pomona. It was a it was a four-way tag team match. Three team tag team match.
It was one of my questions from my co-host, and that's all he put.
I want to say because again, I remember it. Johnny Ian was a promoter out here. Sadly he passed away a while back. But he used to run a promotion called Mach 1 Wrestling in the Anaheim area. And he was one of the guys that helped out a lot of younger talent and get them work. He used to be Johnny Ian used to be a ring announcer for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla too. So he was very involved in the SoCal wrestling scene. Helped a lot of people. I think like guys like Willie Mack will owe a lot to Johnny Ian. So if I remember correctly, and I said my mind is going, but if I remember correctly, it was I think it was a triple threat tag team match. It was like us, me and Peter versus the Rock Nest Monsters, and I can't remember. It was a tag match. I remember Angelo Trinidad used to be the ring announcer for Mach 1 and Championship Wrestling, and was also involved in production. He was the ring announcer, and he did. I remember us having a moment where I told him like, "Man, you still got it." And oh man, I want to say it was a triple threat tag match, if not a fatal four-way tag match. Yeah, you're gonna have to probably bring me back on the show just to see if somebody remembers that can remind me.
I will definitely do that because maybe I could find it before the end of this interview. But one tournament you was a part of more recently was winning the Percy Pringle Cup.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, that was probably one of my favorite tournament wins because it was me in the finals with Anthony Idol for Championship Wrestling, and I'm sorry.
Shout out to Anthony. He's a friend of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was me and Anthony Idol in the finals for that tournament, and and I was a heel, was a huge heel, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to win it by pinning him or doing any other ways, and so I was like, "What's the best way, the most heelish way you could win this? I mean, because the Percy Pringle Cup, the PP3 Cup was a prestigious trophy. You know what I mean? It was a prestigious honor to have at Championship Wrestling. So I was like, oh, and I'm a bad guy, so I don't want to be like you're like winning. So I won it by disqualification, and it was one of my favorite finishes to a match. I had that finish in my back pocket for years, where I reached through the referee's leg and I grabbed Anthony Idol's bell bottoms, because he was wearing those bell bottoms, and I grabbed the bottom of his bell bottoms and I pulled his leg up so that he ends up kicking the referee in the groin, and and everybody, I remember the fans not knowing like how to react, because they're like, what happened? And then once I won by disqualification, the fans just went livid, because they were just like, how could this whole prestigious tournament end in the finals on a disqualification? And I said I was ready to, I was trying to hold on to that trophy and cash it in when the United Wrestling World Title was created. I wasn't involved in the actual world title tournament, so my plan was to hold on to it and then cash it in at some point after the tournament. But I ended up the cup ended up dissolving, I guess, because it's stolen from me and then chucked into the ocean, which was never seen again. So and there has as far as I know, I'm the last PP3 Cup winner. I don't think they haven't done a PP3 Cup tournament since.
Yeah, I don't believe so either.
Yeah, so that's it.
Percy
History.
Yeah, and obviously Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, a major name in pro wrestling, and even before he passed, he was working for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So I mean, what did it kind of mean to you to actually win the Percy Pringle Cup?
You feel like you were trusted. You feel like you were to be a leader for that promotion, a leader for that locker room, because Percy was so helpful backstage when he was there. He was managing Sean Rickard, who is now known as LA Knight. He was managing Sean Rickard, and he was helping him get to the top, getting him over. And he was always there. He was always open for questions. Like he made himself available for questions and advice. I think he really enjoyed being there with all the young guys. And I think I say the same thing kind of like me now. It's like I enjoy being around the young talent because it makes me feel the love that I used to have for wrestling. So I know that I want to say that that's how Percy felt when he was there. And so getting a chance to win the cup and so far being the final cup winner is a huge honor. Probably an accolade I take for granted. I probably should be talking about that one more.
Well, did you feel like it was a big honor when you won the Ray Rosas award 4 years in a row?
That's a huge honor. You know what? That one I keep all the plaques in a row of all the years and on over my mantle and my fireplace. It's tough competition. The competition is, like trying to, it's easier to get nominated for like an Academy Award for Best Actor than it is to get the award for Ray Rosas of the Year. So
Because we're
already on.
There is only one Ray Rosa.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
And
No.
climbing up the accolades, you was also SoCal Uncensored Wrestler of the Year in 2021. What did that mean to you?
Like I want to say that I was vindicated in a way because I felt like I probably deserved it maybe 10 years ago. When I was nominated in 2012 and 2013, and the people that I lost to, because I was runner up, the people that I lost to, and like when 2012 it was Kevin Steen, now known as Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
And then the following year I was runner up to like Adam Cole. So I was like, man, like I like these are like those are the guys I lost to, right? And it's like, when you look back on it, it's like, well, of course you did, right? Those guys are fantastic talent, but to be in the same conversation or be in the same category or be right next, number two to those guys in their prime was a high honor then. But I pride myself in being consistent. I like knowing that fans and promoters and other wrestlers knowing that no matter what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to give a great performance. I'm going to give a good match. I'm going to help my opponent no matter what level of talent they are, if they're a rookie or a veteran. So when I won the Wrestler of the Year, I was almost like kind of mad about it. Like I was like, of course I was Wrestler of the Year. I've been pumping out great matches for years and years and years. So it's about time I got recognized. So again, it was like one of those things. I didn't enjoy it right away. Like I said, because I was like, oh, I should, about time, But now, like as we're going a couple years later, and looking back in hindsight on a lot of these accolades that I've accumulated over the years, you're like, wow, like that was really cool that I got that. I got the Wrestler of the Year award at least once before I eventually retire. Because that's a pretty high honor. I've won Tag Team of the Year. I've won Outstanding Wrestler, like that's like the work rate wrestlers of the year.
Yeah.
So getting like the top wrestler of the year was like kind of like, I think one of the things to add on to the legacy, you know what I mean? So it's like I've got all these other accolades, and now like to cap it off with this Wrestler of the Year, hopefully that gets me into the SoCal Wrestling Hall of Fame. So yeah.
I would think so for sure.
I still got a long way to go. There's still some stuff to do, but.
Not now, but when you're ready to hang up the boots.
Yeah, I made a rule with myself, like, cause I don't plan on buying myself a new pair of boots. So right now my boots are like beat up and starting to fall apart. But it's when those boots stop, when those boots fall apart, when I can't wear them anymore. That's pretty much, I think I'm going to call it a career. So You heard it here. I'm not buying no more boots. This is it. However far these ones get me, that's it. That's how long I'm going to wrestle for.
All right. Now going back to the John Ian Tag Team Invitational Tournament, it was Doomfly versus Los Luchas versus Wolf Zaydes versus Rockness Monster versus Kieran Hogan and DeMonte versus The Leftovers versus Dom and Heather Monroe.
Okay, wow, man. So a lot of those people that are involved in those teams, at least the majority of them had like a connection with Johnny and Los Luchas, and yeah, man, the Leftovers. Always me and Andy Brown.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah. Hearing those yeah, the Wolves Addies. Whew, that sounds crazy.
All right. Now, you were in the ring with a former world champion. I'm of course talking about wrestling David Arquette and RJ City.
Yeah.
What? How do you? What was your thoughts going into that match, and how did you? What was the experience like?
It's one of those things where you like kind of like pinch yourself and you go, what is going on? Like, how is this, how did this come about? Like, how did I go from, being a skinny little kid from the Antelope Valley, and here I am like in the ring, across the ring from David Arquette. It's someone that I used to like. I liked watching, Scream and Ready to Rumble and all those others, Eight-Legged Freaks and all those other movies, and then watching him on WCW, and then now I am across the ring from him, and you just kind of enjoy the ride. It's like a dream, right? Because a lot of times you find yourself in the ring with like people you used to look up to or people you watched and you were big fans of, and now they're close friends. With David, Peter was training him to be a wrestler with on like him and RJ were both taking training him in different ways, different avenues. So he was already kind of a close friend at that point. And again, it was just excited to get in there and work with them and have fun. We were having fun. Like if you like watch the match, you just see how much catch how much we're smiling in between things. And at the end of it, we all gang up on RJ just to teach him a lesson. But fun, like anytime working with David Arquette, because he appeared on our Peter's and mine birthday party show that we had, I think earlier that year, or the year before. And he made an appearance for us because he was just and you see how much how hard he works, because how much he loves and respects wrestling. Like he's a fan of it, and he's not in it to just be like to get a payday, or he's not in it to get just to have people do the bumping for him. Like he's in there, he wants to work hard, he wants to put in some effort, and he has a lot of love and respect for it, and that made me love him more.
Right, because I feel like, prior to that indie run, David Arquette was a very controversial figure in pro wrestling. Like, he was not a well-received person in pro wrestling before that run on the independents.
Yeah, and he was filming a mini, like not a mini, but a documentary.
Right.
And I said I think that put him in such a positive light, and showed his love and respect for wrestling to kind of to right that wrong that and again it wasn't even him that did, like he didn't want to be WCW champion from what I understand. It's just kind of like WCW putting the belt on him to get pop ratings. So he even knew that it was the probably not the best call, but he didn't let that define him. So he still went in and trained, got some pretty good gear, got in great shape, and had some really good matches. When he was on the independent run.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I'm happy to be a part of them. I'm happy to be one of them. I'm really honored.
I mean, it doesn't. I would imagine it's a big moment to be in the champion in the ring with a former world champion even though it's David Arquette.
Yeah, yeah. It said just as a fan of his acting, and then the fact that he was former world champion. It's just like, again, one of those things. Was like, how did I get here? Like, well, what right and wrong decisions did I make to put myself in this position, and to be trusted? You know what I mean? Because he had that issue with the death match in Nick Gage where he had his neck cut. He had a pretty deep cut in his neck, and so you probably go in there with some trepidation the next time the next couple times you get in the ring after that.
Yeah.
So again, you get put in the ring with him, and it's because obviously somebody trusted you to be able to take care of him, and I feel like I did my job.
Now you work for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. We've gone over that. Does the name Nick Bonanno mean anything to you?
Yeah, he used to be the head ref and also part of the creative for Championship Wrestling and for Hollywood and Arizona, and now he's got himself a good little job in WWE. So he's doing pretty well for himself. I've been fortunate enough to get a few car rides from California to Arizona with Nick and had some really good conversations and some fun little car games to pass the time in the middle of the night. But I love him. Man. We've always had great conversations when it comes to like talking about storylines or talking about angles or promos for the shows that we're working on together with. So I was super happy and like it was happy for him that he got picked up, but at the same time it was almost expected that he eventually would get picked up. Oh, yeah. So you're happy, but you weren't really surprised he was going to get picked up.
I believe my co-host Scooter Dust actually worked with him in Tyler as well, and that's why he asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's a great guy, man. I hope he puts in a good word for me over there.
Definitely. Alright, I think that's a great segue into our next segment. Ray Rosas' Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Well, one time, many years ago, I wrestled in a gay bar, right? And that's not the weird part. The weird part was because it was for an event, and one of my trainers was Angel, the hardcore homo from XPW.
Okay.
So he was participating in this. Event with Mariah Moreno. It was called Jocks in a Lot. So it was like a just an event for athletes that were LGBT. Right, so like they had boxers, kickboxers, MMA fighters, and then pro wrestlers. And so we were on there. Me and Pinky Santino were wrestling Angel Hardcore Homo and Mariah Moreno, and they had built this custom made ring that was built that was able to fit inside the bar because it was such a small bar that the ropes were like, let me say, like, you know what I mean, like I got a wingspan of about maybe 6 feet. But I was able to touch the turnbuckles from fingertip to fingertip.
Oh,
that's how small the ring was. So we had to like have a tag team match in this little teeny weeny ring, and since it was smaller, the ropes were like really tight, like almost like a fence. Like you couldn't bounce off these ropes, you couldn't run into the ropes, and any type of springboard or top rope maneuver would give you no bounce, no give. So they remember being real tough. But Pinky, he's about 6'6", maybe 6'7", and he took a head scissors in that ring and was able to like squeeze it in there. And I don't know how he did it. But the most bizarre thing was that the ring was this like, I want to say like 7x7 box, and it was also like stupidly like tall. Like I had to like get a running start just to jump to get inside the ring. Like it was tall. So it was custom built. I'd never seen a ring like that. Another time was when we had a wrestling match on the beach. So they put the ring in the sand on the beach. It was for a Volcom the skate brand, surf like a surfing event. So while in between the heats that the athletes were surfing, they would have us doing wrestling matches there. So we were wrestling like on the sand, and I'm taking like back buddy drops on the sand, and like it didn't hurt that much, but it was just crazy because the ring is like starting to sink in because it's so heavy in the sand, and the wrestlers are shifting the weight of it, so it's like sinking into one side or the other. And then like the end of the whole show, like we're like, hey, we're gonna go through like a table because we're young and dumb at that time. And we go through, and we're like, oh man, after we're thinking like, oh man, we're gonna get in so much trouble. We broke a table and we did this and that. So then the event organizers come in. There's young guys, they're cool, and they go, hey, you didn't let us know you were gonna do like table spots, and stuff like that. And we're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, if you let us know, we would have got you more. So we were like, oh man, we could have been doing TLC matches all night. So, off the top of my head, those are some of the more funny ones, or more bizarre ones. I'm sure there's been a ton more. Come on, there's got to be some more that I've just being on the road. One time, driving from Los Angeles to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and all the different things you can talk about there. You got me there. I wish I would have. I wish I could. I know I have some good ones, and after the interview ends, I'm like, I should have told him that story.
Well, you did wrestle at a rave, right?
Oh yes. I did wrestle at the Electric Daisy Carnival when the EDC event when they had it here at the Coliseum in LA. And where the ring was like next to it wasn't in anywhere near the like. I don't know if you've ever been to the Coliseum, but there's the field where the big stage was, and they have some like carnival rides, and then upward a little bit on the off to the side behind the stairs, behind the chairs and the seating where the restrooms are. There was the ring, and it had like one little like floodlight on it, and we were wrestling there, and. We were scheduled to wrestle like all night, but it would take us legitimately a half hour to get from the dressing room or the locker room area to the ring. So we'd have to like walk and try to get through the sea of people, and then get to the ring and try to time it just right so that the match was ending. That you can just continue, come in and you start your match. Otherwise, you're kind of just standing around, or worse yet, like you time it wrong and then the referee's standing in the ring. With nobody in there, and then he's waiting for you to get there. And in between each match, we'd have to like bring water bottles for the referee to drink, so because he was getting so dehydrated with all the matches he was doing.
That's awesome.
But like I say technically, yeah, I've wrestled at the Coliseum. Like it was just outside the stadium seating. Like it was inside the Coliseum, but just outside the stadium seating. Wasn't like on the field or anything. But I remember being there, and we got all the way to the top of the stadium, and we're just kind of watching the rave go, and just this sea of people shifting and moving and bouncing, and it was surreal. Like I was completely sober, and I was like, this is a trip. Like, this is a trip right here, because people are it's just a massive humanity. No, you can't see an individual person. It's just all just a blob of humans.
I mean, it's so crazy.
They're crazy.
WWE hasn't ran an event at the Coliseum. I mean, and the closest wrestling event that's been there has been New Japan, and it was literally outside of the Coliseum.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
I think even the Galen Center right there by USC is a pretty good venue to run. I think ROH just ran there not so long ago. But the Coliseum is it's I said it's an open area, open air. I just think it's just a little on the it's a little old.
Right.
And when it comes to like larger venues, you have Crypto.com Arena right here, and then SoFi Stadium now. So, and then the new Clipper Stadium that's going to go up right next to SoFi Stadium. You're gonna have tons of options to run some wrestling shows.
Oh, like you can't throw a rock in Los Angeles and not get an arena at this point.
Right, yeah, because right there's the Kia Forum, and then there's the whole, then out there. There's I think the Honda Center and the Toyota Center. So we're living in Southern California. Yeah, there's a lot of venues and arenas. But at the same time, there's too many venues and arenas because it's splitting all the audiences.
Oh yeah. All right. How accurate is your Wikipedia page?
Oh, I haven't looked at that. It's not. I don't think it's that accurate. I think I started to make it, and then I just gave up on it, and then I went back and I'll go and check it. I'll go back and check it every once in a while, and I'll like wow, who put this or who wrote this? Or like how'd they get this information? But I would say it's about 20%, 30% accurate.
Oh, I would say that's more accurate than some of the other ones out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just got like I think all the titles that I've held, I think it's pretty accurate with that, and I think with just like my name and stuff like that. But like in terms of like, there's a lot of missing history in between the my debut to where I was at. But
Oh yeah.
what can you do? I don't even. I used to keep track of how many matches. I used to log and write down all the matches I've ever had. But at a certain point, I was having so many that I like would fall behind, and then I didn't, I think I stopped at like 600 and some change, and that was many years ago. So, I think like cagematch.net has me at like 800 something, but there's a lot of shows that aren't reported. So
Right.
I'm thinking I've cracked over 1,000 matches, over the course of 14 years.
I mean, you would have to.
Yeah.
Like, your cage match profile is 8 pages long.
Oh
So,
man.
so like, I can imagine that's, only the ones that they report on. So I can imagine you're not well into maybe like 1,200 at this point.
Yeah. I said because there's a lot of lucha libre indie shows that I'm on that aren't reported, that aren't recorded anywhere. And there was like there was 1 year, I think in like 2012, 2013, where I wrestled over, and that's when I was logging it, but I wrestled like 110 matches in that 1 year. But then the following year I ended up getting knee surgery, so it goes to show you how that affected me.
Yeah. All right. Can you tell us about your appearance on Judge Jerry?
That one was one of those things that just came out of nowhere, and then you didn't think it was gonna like go through, and then next thing you know, you're in Sanford, Connecticut, ready to see Jerry Springer, who just recently passed away.
Yeah.
I was bummed that I didn't. Since again, this was during COVID and the pandemic, so we had like they were so quick and thorough. Like they flew us in, they gave us a hotel. They gave us food. Like they took such good care of us, and we had to get COVID tested while we were there and wait for results, and we go back the next day, and then we'd get dressed in our gear. They put us on the show, and we're there just performing that as well, and it was over an incident where I broke Watts' foot, which was completely an accident.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like it was one of those things like, oh, I forgot all about that, and then immediately as soon as the show was over, they have us take a few pictures, cut a few promos, and then they like, all right, there's your stuff. Like they took it out of the dressing room and they put it in like some little corner area. Like, oh, there's your stuff, and the driver's waiting for you outside to take you back to the airport.
Wow.
They were quick. Because they were filming like several episodes per day. And like Jerry I didn't get a chance to talk to Jerry beforehand. I didn't get a chance to see him afterward, take a picture. He came through that door, sat in the chair, did the stuff, made his verdict, and then walked right through the door. And then I'm sure he comes back the next case. But it was a crazy experience because like, again, it's one of those things you're like, you sit there and you go, how did I get here? What decisions did I make in my life that got me here in this situation? Like I'm here, like, and I was scheduled to fly to Atlanta to wrestle for Championship Wrestling Atlanta. That was running at the time, but then like the biggest storm in the history of like New York, New Jersey area like had hit, and I'm sitting in the airport and it's just storming, and the first floor or the bottom floor of the airport flooded.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like Titanic, like coming up the stairs type flooding. And I was like, so I was going to be stranded there. But the producers, and I wish I could remember their names so I could shout them out. But the producers that work for the Jerry Springer show, who were giving me the flights there, they called me to go, hey, like we saw your flight was canceled, and then they got me a room at the Marriott right there next to the hotel, and they hooked me up, took care of me, and then they rescheduled my flight and then it wasn't gonna work out, so I was gonna make the booking, so they ended up just flying me back to Los Angeles. But yeah, the Judge Jerry crew, they took real good care of me that weekend where I was going to end up stranded in New Jersey. Not a great place to be stranded either. You know?
I was just gonna say that. You do not want to be stranded in New Jersey.
No offense to people out in New Jersey. I love that state, but I wanted to go home.
Yeah, definitely shout out to them taking care of you that way. But how
Yeah.
does it even come about to go on Judge Jerry? Like, who sets that up? Are you reaching out to them? Or are they reaching out to you?
You know what? I honestly, again, it's all the shots I've taken to the head, but I can't remember exactly who or how I got that one. I know that they had reached out to me and they'd reached out to Watts, and then we were all in a three-way call, and then just kind of, I think they're just looking for cases, and they're they're looking for content, and they just contacted us, and then they're like, okay, this is how we're going to do this angle, and this is how we're going to talk it over. This is what we're going to do. And then the people that, like, because I guess they have an agent, a casting agent, or someone out here in Los Angeles looking up places. I think they have them in different areas, and then they shoot the idea to the home base, and then they decide they want to go through with it, and then they go. I honestly can't remember how that came about, but I just remember that, like, just being in Connecticut, and I was like, well, never in my life would I ever be anywhere near Connecticut if it wasn't for wrestling, right? Because again, it was through wrestling means, but it was a great experience. I enjoyed how green Connecticut was.
And I just love the fact that, it's supposed to be, you're in a court and you guys came out in ring gear.
Yeah, they because I think I want to say that they were going to have us wrestle each other again in the courtroom, but I guess they couldn't get the proper clearance or something, so that's why they ended up going with the arm wrestling.
Right.
So they ended up, so they which is probably better, but that's what we were geared up, ready to go, just in case they had changed their mind, if they wanted us to actually do like a quick little match or something.
Can you tell us about Wrestling Prime Time?
Man, we got to wrestle them twice. I don't know if people may not remember the first time we wrestled them, but we got to wrestle them twice, and I remember like being really nervous about that, like, because again, you really don't know how a lot of times ex-WWE guys can be, they can be like really easy to work with, and other ones can be like kind of like difficult in terms of like you just. But I always go in the mindset when you're wrestling like a star like that's former TV talent from a big one, in a much bigger star, than it's like you're just gonna wrestle their match. You're just getting plugged in to whatever match they want to have, and you just kind of get you get what you need to get in over when you get the opportunity to. But with working with Shad and JTG was easy. It was really fun. So like the first time we were kind of like kind of iffy with each other, like not iffy with each other, but it was just kind of like, well, we were pitching ideas to them, and they were kind of open to it, but they were kind of like, well, maybe we'll just do it this way instead. And we had the second match. Now that they knew how we operated and how well we kind of how well our chemistry was at that time, they were more open to the ideas that we had. The second time we wrestled them, me and Peter had Shad, and we threw him into the wall, and they put a big old dent in the drywall. And I remember the camera was right behind me, and I turned and I like kind of do like this like ooh like face like, oh, like we were gonna get in trouble for putting a hole in the wall. but remember, and I remember going like, that was all Shad. That was all Shad. I barely threw him. Like, look at me. Look at the size of us. Like, how could we do that? So, but he was laughing about it later. It's funny in that match, Peter ended up like breaking his eye socket. He got punched and ended up breaking his eye socket, and there was a lot of stuff happening in that match that was just like. Just adding on to like how crazy and wild it was. We were able to go toe to toe with them in promos and crowd reactions, and it was like one of those things where like it built our confidence up as performers. And we loved working with them. It was a good dynamic, right? These buff thug gangster guys, prime time against like these little flirty dance boys, So it was a good like visual to see the two opposing teams, and I was really bummed when Shad had passed away.
Definitely.
So I was glad that glad I got to work with him, and he's I would have done the same thing in his shoes, to tell him to go save my son, because just a father's sacrifice, and he made it, man.
It's just a tragedy, but his son is still alive, so that's I think he'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think any father would be okay with that.
Oh yeah. Now, you wrestled DJ Hyde.
Yeah, I was and that's when he was in Championship Wrestling in Hollywood. And he was wearing his little dress shirt and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's back when Championship Wrestling from Hollywood had like a working deal with Combat Zone Wrestling.
Okay.
So he would bring some talent over, and then some of the Hollywood talent would go over there to CZW, and it's one of those things where like, oh cool, like one of those things you're like, oh, you're in the ring with the top guy, and you want to make sure that you live up to your own reputation, and you perform at a standard to show that you are also on the level with this top star or with this talent, and you're just like, oh, you're like, oh, I gotta take, I'm taking the lariat, so I hope I hope I do, hope I take it well.
Definitely, I mean, DJ is definitely one of those guys that is a polarizing figure in pro wrestling now. Yeah,
definitely, I would say so. Like I said, all the business I've done with him has been pretty good. Got a chance to talk and pick his brain a little bit, and I said I've never had a bad experience with him. I said, and the match was good. He didn't kill me. I'm still here.
That's always
still alive. Yeah.
Now, we've been talking about all the fantastic matches you've had with, big names. Can you tell us about the match with Johnnie Robbie? Obviously one of your students, somebody that's coming up. What does it kind of mean to you to have, that one-on-one match with, obviously a protege of yours?
Oh, it's oddly there's more. I think there's more pressure in that match for me than there is like all the other matches with everybody else, like the bigger names that I've worked, because now you have to live up to have to live up to the reputation of being this trainer. So if I've trained her and I've helped her have taught her how to have good matches, now I have to go out and have her like a great match with her. Show her that I'm still her teacher. Show her that she still has a lot to learn, and also, but at the same time, help her grow. Right. And from when she first debuted to where she is now, she's grown immensely. And she was always so uncertain about who she was, like what her character was, and who she was as a performer. And I see her now, and she's so much more relaxed. And I always tell people when they're first starting, is like, no matter who you are when you start off, you're going to change. Like I think people get too hooked up and like, oh, my character's going to be this, or I got to wear this, or how should I act? Because your character's going to change and evolve over time. And it's naturally, you're going to naturally become yourself. And I always tell her, just be you. And she's probably one of the probably one of my best students, because she's like almost like this. She's like 99.9% there, total package. She's great. She sells great facial expressions. Promos are decent. Could be used to work, but she's charismatic. She's fiery. And so getting that one-on-one match with her again is just trying to like show her the way. Still continuing to teach her while wrestling her, and then you have high expectations. And then at the same time, you have high expectations. I have high expectations for her and her performance, and like seeing if she can keep up, seeing if she can utilize the stuff that I've taught her in this match and in other matches in the future. So I always keep a close eye on her. Always sending her notes whenever she posts matches and stuff, and I was like thinking that no matter what happens, that she's an extension of me. So
Right.
when people find out she's been trained by Ray Rosas, they'll go, that's why, when they see how good she is. So you want to be a part of that success. You want to be part of her journey, part of her process. And, she's only 2 years in and accomplishing what she's accomplishing. So she's going to be wrestling in the Queen of, on the Queen of Indies event. I'm not sure she's in the tournament or not yet. We'll probably find out in the next couple of days. But she's getting on bigger shows. She's getting bigger opponents, and being a part of that and helping her learn, giving her confidence. That's a big, one of those big, good feeling moments for myself as a coach and a trainer.
Definitely. And, it's crazy because, with everything we've been talking about, and you almost retired a couple years ago, no?
Yeah, when it was winding down, I think a lot of my friends were getting signed to contracts for various promotions. I was like, that's what kind of sparked the leftovers, because we were like, everybody got scooped up in a bunch of contracts, and we were kind of the ones that were left over. So that's how that came about. And then me and my wife were having our third child. And so I was like, well, this is probably the end of the road. I think I've peaked as a performer. I don't think this is going to be the end of the road. So I was planning to retire, and I was going to and at the time I was doing an open challenge where I was literally wrestling anybody that wanted to wrestle me. I went on like social media and go, if anybody, like, these are the dates, reply back to the date you want, and then I'll wrestle you as long as you're an actual wrestler. And so I was actually wrestling people that I never wrestled before, wrestle people that were just like like a year of experience or sometimes less than that, and just trying to give them good matches. So I was trying to do business on the way out for a bunch of people, and just give back to the wrestling, and I was gonna have my final match, and I had a hard time trying to pick who was gonna be my final opponent. So I make and I always joke around about it, and everybody does in wrestling, like about joking around about retiring, like when they're going to quit or going to retire. And people always kind of call you out on that, like, oh, you're not, or you keep saying it all the time. Especially me, I say it all the time.
Right.
But I think when I actually said it out loud in front of a crowd of people, and I made it real, like, no, on this date I am retiring, like, and this is the build up to it. And then the craziest thing happens. I start winning championships. So I'm winning like the Santino Bros championship. I think I won the Arizona State championship and I almost want to say the Hollywood Heritage title at the same time too. So I was like winning, like, I was like, oh great, well, glad I'm going winning all these belts when I'm getting ready to retire. Makes perfect sense. And then the pandemic hit. So we had all the closures. So no more shows, no more training, no more wrestling, nothing. Right. So you're just sitting at home playing Call of Duty, Warzone. And you're like, I guess like, and the time, I guess the deadline I gave myself had passed. So I was like, I guess like I could still technically retire and whatever. But I think my wife had talked me out of it, and a few of my friends had talked me out of it. And I was like, well, let me just keep going, see what's happening. And then, I just kept going. I didn't stop. So right now my policy is with my wrestling boots, right? As long as my boots are still able to be, still go, like I'm gonna keep going. I probably got to get them resold, but they're hanging in there. I have to duct tape them a little bit. And whatever is my latest booking is my last booking. So as long as I keep getting bookings, I'll keep wrestling. So if you want me to keep wrestling, people, make sure I get my bookings.
Well, I mean, you're booked normally every Friday for the rest of your life at this point.
You're right. Yeah, so it's a racket I got for myself. Yeah, every Friday at MPW. No, I think the latest booking I have is for Santino Bros for the LA Rumble. That's in July. So right now, officially my last match is July. So unless more bookings come after that,
All right.
But
what is your relationship with Santino Brothers? Because obviously they trained you, but you've had a little stint where you wasn't together and you went to Millennium, but now you kind of came back to that.
yeah, so I trained there for let's see, several years. I can't remember. I can't give you the exact number, but I trained there for a long time. Had a bit of a falling out with Santino Bros, and then I had to we split ways, and I had to go to different schools to train places because again, like I'm a kind of person that like I need ring time. Like I need to be in the ring. I need to train. Otherwise, I feel like I'm gonna get worse. I'm not gonna get any better. So even if I'm wrestling every weekend, I still want to train in the ring once a week. So I was looking for a place to train in a place called Underground Empire Wrestling, or UEW had offered me a place to train there. And it was so I was training there, and then that place shut down, and I was already taking bookings at Millennium Pro Wrestling. So when they found out I was available to train there or be the coach there, they had offered, like literally the next day after I found out that the place I was currently training at was closed. They hit me up and they offered me a place to train, and I was always really appreciative of that. So I decided then and there, they're like, okay, I'm going to give them, my loyalty, because they had my back when I had nowhere to go. They offered me a home, and now that's my home. And a lot of the students that I enjoyed a lot of the students working with a lot of students that were there. They were all young and hungry, and they were just relatively unknown at the time. MPW, or Millennium Pro Wrestling, was just this little weekly promotion that had 20 people in a crowd that was stuck in a small corner of SoCal that nobody had ever gone to or knew about. So I go there and I start working. I'm like, wow, these kids are pretty good. And I start training them, making them better. And then I bring in some more talent for them to work with, and the place blew up. And then, it's in Chatsworth, and they're drawing, pretty well for a weekly show for the size of that room. And in wrestling's, what they say never, right? So after so long and some healing, I mended fences with Santino Bros, and went back home, so to speak, but more on like a partnership, working relationship. I'm not, I still support and I still work with Santino's. It's still a place where I train, and I go over, and I even go there myself to help train a couple of their students from time to time. So I'm just kind of training at both places, with a lot of students. And now I don't look at it so much as like me just kind of bounce back and forth, but I look at it like, oh, now I have more students. Like I have students here at Millennium, and I have students here at Santino's, and now I'm just sticking my reach or my branches and my roots out further and wider with more and more students that are going to be part of my legacy. So like this person's been trained by me at Santino's, and this person's been trained by me at Millennium. And they're getting two different experiences because the curriculum is different at each school, but I still find my own way of teaching them what they need to know. So that's kind of how I've been looking at it. So I work for both promotions, and I teach at both promotions, and now I have twice as many students, which means I have twice as much of my legacy going out there, because a lot of these guys are just I'm trying to lead by example, and a lot of them are coming along very nicely.
Definitely. And, speaking of legacies, I think that's a great segue into the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every
Mhm.
movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first three songs on the Ray Rosas' uh, movie career soundtrack?
Oh man, that's a good one. This is the colossal question. This is a colossal question, and I'm a big music guy. Like I love music and from all genres and everything. Like um, let's see here. So the first two songs on the soundtrack, you got me good. So I guess obviously it would probably be "Obsession" by Animotion because of the PPRay, and then oh man. Let me think. One of my favorite songs I like to use was "Come with Me" by Puff Daddy from the Godzilla soundtrack.
Okay.
So that one was so it just shows the two sides of Ray Rosas right there, the fun loving side and the more serious, hardworking side. But yeah, I guess that'd be the two songs.
Now, do we have a third?
A third?
Yes.
Hmm. If we did have a third, it'd be I guess "Crawling in the Dark" by Hoobastank because that was like my first theme song when I first started wrestling. But then probably like "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses too, because it's like always a classic, classic song. And honestly, I probably Guns that "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses should be the first song really because I took my I took my ring name Ray Rosas was inspired by Axl Rose. I was originally when I debuted, I was Ray Rose, and then I went to a promotion and changed my name to Ray Rosas, and that's what stuck. That's what stayed. But it was originally because I liked the name Axl Rose. So I remember back when I was younger, I'm sitting in I'm sitting in a room with a group of my friends, and we're listening to Guns N' Roses, and I go, man, what like, and we're talking about Axl Rose, and I'm like, what a sweet last name, like Axl Rose, and I was like, that's it. I'm calling myself Ray Rose, and it just that's how it went. So "Welcome to the Jungle" should probably be the first song on the soundtrack, followed by "Animotion," "Obsession."
I love how you're putting the beats of what songs comes first, what comes second.
yeah, I put that one in there because that one's the important one. That's the one that
Right.
inspired the whole name, but but that one's like cemented more to a big chunk of my career.
Hey, can't be mad at it. We got four solid songs right there.
Yeah.
That being said, now that we got the soundtrack out of the way, who plays Ray? And you can't say yourself because you're obligated to a Stanley S. cameo.
Well, let's see here. It would I would have three actors in mind. I think one would be um, right now because he's really hot right now. Would be Pedro Pascal.
Yes.
Right. Everybody loves Pedro Pascal, and I think he'd probably be cool Ray Rosas. Uh, some people have told me that I resemble Christian Bale in a way. I don't. I mean, I don't see it, but people see it. So Christian Bale, and then I think my personal choice would be um, Oscar Isaac.
Oh, okay.
Though
Yeah.
he played Moon Knight. When you see him with a beard and longer hair, I'm like, oh, okay, I think he could be a Ray Rosas in a movie. So
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Awesome.
yeah.
And obviously, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be three people in your movie, and who would play them?
I guess like my wife would be Selma Hayek.
Okay.
Okay. And then God, who would play? Maybe I'll have Pete Davidson play Peter,
Okay.
and who's it? And then let's see here. Mm, I don't know who I'd have play for the third role here.
I'm just trying to picture Pete Davidson with that mustache.
Right? And then I for the third person, let's see here. I would just have Robert Downey Jr. in it for some reason. I don't even know what role he would have. Just have him in there.
Just have Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he's just there. He could play chaos, I guess.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
This sounds like a great movie.
Yeah, right?
And you could
I'm liking it.
You could pre-order the tickets now. Alright, on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza.
Oh no.
What's your stance?
Well, my wife likes it, so I have to like it. Regardless if I do or not. My wife likes it, and she has no, reservations about no shame about that. And if she orders it, I eat it.
I think you're the first person that is actually forced to like pineapple on pizza that we've had.
Like I said, I'm not. I can't confirm or deny that I am forced or not. But she likes it, therefore I like it officially.
Officially, the official answer. Right. What's your spirit Pokemon?
My spirit Pokemon would have to be a Ditto.
Okay, awesome. Now,
Yeah.
We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
No, I don't.
T
What is it?
is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. Because a Doug can't spell.
That's new to me. That's funny though.
Yeah. Love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive.
One of the best.
Oh yeah. Need to educate those kids on Tracy Smothers for sure. Alright, and the weirdest question you'll ever be asked on a wrestling interview, would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual rock.
Yeah. I mean, everybody talks about wrestling a broom, but I want to wrestle. I'll wrestle a rock. How big is the rock?
It's about the size of a shoe, I would say.
Oh yeah, I would kick the shit out of a rock.
Alright, I love that enthusiasm. Just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes. In a Tungsten Man match, an Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
Why?
Well, it was for
That's
it was for a championship.
I'm gonna have to train real hard if I want to do something like that.
Yeah, and unfortunately he did not win either. So, yeah.
Ah.
Alright, on a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully still training, like still coaching people. I would like to make coaching pro wrestlers and even pro wrestling referees like my full-time gig. I know I'm probably not going to get picked up or signed anywhere as a wrestling talent. In-ring wrestling talent, maybe a referee or manager. But if anything, I would like to be the coach, trainer.
How is in 5 years? How are those boots and bookies looking?
We'll see how that looks, right? The boots will probably be disintegrated by then.
I mean, what if somebody just buys you boots and gives them to you, like as a present?
I mean, it would be rude to not use them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotta not tell people my shoe size so they can't do that for me.
Measure your feet while you're not looking.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Take my boots on when I'm not wrestling with them.
And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Ray Rosas is all about?
I would say one of my favorite matches is Santino Bros Wrestling, Ray Rosas versus Slice Boogie.
Can we
It's
find
one of my favorites.
Can we find
On
that
YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. I will find that match on YouTube and put it in the description of the video below. Both on YouTube
And
huh?
and also my latest match with Delilah Doom from Santino Bros.
Okay. No. Oh.
And I'm giving you a bunch and any of my matches with Johnnie Robbie, and my match with B-Boy from Epic Pro.
All right. I have some homework to do now. I will find at least one of those many matches, maybe possibly two. Maybe I'll find all of them, and I'll put them all in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to see them after this interview.
Perfect.
And now that we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
All right, let me get ready. Okay, I'm ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler.
The Yeti.
Your main event in WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
John Cena.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Edge.
Which one?
The Metalingus.
Okay. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Overrated.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast.
Oh, that was a good one. I should use that one.
Squash.
I felt like I was off. Okay, I'm sorry. Are you still going?
Oh, no. Continue. I cut you off.
No, I was just like, I feel like I'm on Family Feud, like the end of the what does it name the top 100 answers.
Yeah, yes. That's an interesting thing we should maybe do. Okay. Squash, vegetable or fruit?
Oh, that's a fruit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Tomato love.
Oh man, yeah, because the seeds are on the inside.
Yes.
Right? Ah, yeah. I'm smart.
New Japan wrestler Taichi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question: what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I mean, anything. You got to see less than 80% cheek, right? Or more than 80% cheek. Anything more than 80% cheek is too much.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Oddly enough, no, never had. That's a very specific question. It wasn't a supermarket. It was a 7-Eleven.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. Could you explain the context of the conversation?
No, I'm just kidding. No, that was that was a joke.
Okay. Well, either way, that is the correct answer. And
That's funny.
that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me, Ray.
Well, thank you for having me. You know, it's not very often people are interested in what Ray Rosas has to say.
Oh, I mean, it was an absolute pleasure and blast. And,
Well, have fun. I said I'm open to have you to come back on whenever you want me to, or whenever we have the time. I know we had some scheduling stuff going on.
And I will definitely take advantage of that offer in the future. Until then, where can we find all things Ray Rosas on social media?
So like I said before, on Twitter it's at Ray Rosas. On Instagram it's at other Ray Rosas. You can find you can just search in Ray Rosas on YouTube and find a lot of bad matches. Mainly because of me. And I'll be at, let's say, Millennium Pro Wrestling. It's going to be MPW_CA, and you can see all the flyers for all the events for Fridays. There's Santino Bros Fight Night next, I believe, on the 18th. The next event's on May 18th, and you can go to @Santino Bros to get all the information on Twitter. And hopefully I can keep getting bookings and keep wrestling for everybody, and keep coming up with great stories for everybody.
And where can we find Millennium Pro Wrestling on social media if anybody wants to be trained by Ray Rosas?
Yeah, I said if you go to Twitter, and it's going to be at MPW_CA, I think is what the Twitter handle is. You can just hit them up, and they'll have a contact number. You can give them a call. I said come train with theirs there. So or you go to Santino Bros and sign up there and train with me there. There's 2 places. You can go to both. Go to one. It's up to you. Ray Rosas will be there. Ray Rosas will help you. So.
Right, I will put in the video below the Santino Brothers website and Millennium Pro Wrestling's social media as well. For anybody that does want to be trained as well. And all of your other links will be there as well. Simply click the link, a new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give them a damn follow. And if you
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, and buy them a new pair of damn boots.
We'll start a GoFundMe to get me new boots.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment on YouTube and Castbox. Of course, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Fair One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for the interviews. And follow the show at WRESTLINGWITHE, both on Twitter and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. You can follow me personally at JamesG993. Alright, Ray, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
You got it.
For always special guest Ray Rosas, Calico Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.